Chairman, you can start the meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's meeting of full council. Welcome also to those members of the press and public who are joining us via the live stream. Before we begin, please can I take this opportunity to remind member and officer colleagues to turn their mobile telephones to silent and ensure that when addressing the meeting, they speak directly into the microphone, ensuring that the red light is on. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Can I ask member services to report any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, we've received apologies from Councillor Carney, Councillor Connor and Councillor Oliver. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of May 2024 are shown on pages 3 to 14 of the agenda pack. I would like to move approval of the minutes. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Members, if you have any comments, then please raise your hand. Oh, sorry, yeah. No hands were raised, therefore the minutes have been approved. Item 3, civic engagements update. For your information, you'll find at pages 15 and 16 of the agenda pack a list of the civic engagements the Vice Chairman and I have attended in the weeks preceding full council. In addition to those listed, I can now also report that I attended the D-Day beacon lighting in Wisbech on the 6th of June and the Huntington Mayor's Tea Party on the 13th of July. Item 4, receive any announcements from the Chairman of the Council and or the Head of Paid Services. I do have some announcements. The first of my announcements today is to acknowledge the resignation of former Councillor Kay Neer, who stood down in June. Kay was initially elected in 2007, diligently and dutifully representing her constituents over many years. During her time as an elected member of Fenland District Council, Kay took up many important positions, serving on the appointments and overviewing scrutiny panels, the licensing, planning, project review and staff committees. Kay also fulfilled the role of chairman for 3 years and was involved in the popular Golden Age fairs and the Fenland Twinning Association. I'd like to take this opportunity to offer Kay our sincere thanks for her many years of services to Fenland District Council and to wish her all the best for the future. As a result of Kay's resignation, a by-election was held for the Whittlesea South Ward on the 4th of July, and my next announcement is to confirm the appointment of Councillor Gurinder Singh Gill. Councillor Gill, congratulations on your appointment and welcome to Fenland District Council and your first full council meeting. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to announce that this year's civic reception will take place between 6:30 and 8:30 on Friday the 6th of September at Gorefield Community Hall. I shall also be hosting a coffee morning here in the council chamber between 10 and 12 on Friday the 17th of October. This will be held in aid of Damsons, a community support group based at Peckover House for people living with mild to moderate dementia and their informal carers. I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at these events. Agenda item 5 is to receive any declarations of interest under the local code of conduct or any interest under the code of conduct on planning matters in respect of any items to be discussed at this meeting. If you have anything to declare, please can you raise your hand? No hands are raised, thank you. Item 6, to receive questions from and provide answers to councillors in relation to matters which, in the opinion of the chairman, accord with the provisions of Procedure Rules 8.4 and 8.6. There have been no written questions submitted in accordance with Rule 8.6, and we will therefore proceed straight to questions under Rule 8.4. Councillor Booth, you may now ask questions of the leader within the allotted time of 20 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just one set of questions really, and it's regarding obviously the decision by the previous government to withdraw the moratorium regarding new incinerators, and obviously the situation that has led us in, and obviously the failure of the district council to be able to bring a judicial review given the judge's decision in that matter. Obviously, I note the comments of the press release that have been issued by the district council, and obviously the support that council said that it's willing to give to residents. What other practical matters can we take in relation to this issue, given we've been let down so badly by the previous government, basically dropping the moratorium that was keeping it on hold?
Councillor Bowden.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. I don't intend to bring party politics into this. I think the issue is actually more important than to allow for that. But the truth is that we were very, very badly let down, and now is not the time to start pointing fingers, but there are fingers which could be pointed. And the reason it's not yet the time is that the issue isn't fully finished yet, because we do have a new government, and they are able to take actions which could assist us. Now, I'm quite confident, for various reasons, that any proposal by government ministers to overturn what has been decided about the Wisbech incinerator would be resisted by civil servants. But we've already seen, only in the last week, civil servants' advice isn't necessarily followed by government ministers, particularly one of those who would be involved, which is Ed Miliband as the Energy and Net Zero Secretary. So what we will be doing is, we'll be doing it this week, things are already being drafted, to write, first of all, to Ed Miliband in his capacity as Energy and Net Zero Secretary of State, and then also a separate letter to Robbie Moore, who's the Recycling Minister, and to Steve Reed, who's the new Environment Secretary, in order to put our case to them that it would be in accordance with their own policies that they ran for election on, to take a look at the Wisbech incinerator and to see if it's possible for them to overturn what has been decided. And we're going to do that in an entirely non-party political way. We're not going to raise any party politics in it, because most important of all is to try, even at this, it's past the 12th hour, even now we're 10 minutes past 12, to try to get that decision reversed. And anything which can be done must be done. And to be quite honest, I'm 100% confident they'll be advised by the civil servants not to do it, but nevertheless they still may. So any chance we've got it. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Booth.
Thank you for that response. That was what I was hoping you were going to say that would be done. I think I can probably speak for members, although I've not spoken to them regarding this, but I'm sure that this would have unanimous support from all members of this council, and I think that should be made, that there's cross-party opposition to this from all residents, groups, associations that live within Wisbech and the surrounding area, and I think we need to make that clear to the Minister of State that, you know, this really is the wrong decision to put this incinerator, particularly the fact it's so near school and housing. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be universal support for these actions. Thank you.
Do you want to come back, Chris? Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for those comments, which I'm sure officers will have noted and will incorporate within the letters that we will be sending, and I'm expecting to be able to send those this week.
Thank you. Agenda item 7, to receive reports from and ask questions of Cabinet members with portfolio holder responsibilities in accordance with Procedure Rules 8.1 and 8.2. In accordance with Procedure Rule 8.1, members will find the portfolio holders briefing report at pages 17 to 60 of the agenda pack. Procedure Rule 8.2, submits questions to Cabinet members about any matter which falls within their portfolio responsibilities, and members are reminded that there is a total time allocation of 1 hour for this item. Councillor Hoy.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is for the leader. I saw Councillor Patrick had said during the election campaign that the Liberal Democrats had done nothing for the incinerator. I thought that was quite an unfair comment, actually, because whilst personally, I feel at County Council they could have done more, and they haven't, given us any money towards the judicial review or anything. I do feel like Councillors Booth and Cutler have actually done a very great deal for that, and so I just would ask if Councillor Bowden agrees that I don't think it's fair to make an assumption of an entire party when 2 individuals from that party on this council have actually done quite a lot towards the campaign.
Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Chairman, and I'd like to thank Councillor Hoy for her question. I don't believe that it's appropriate at this time, let alone previously, to bring party politics into this particular issue. I know that we've been directly told that we've got complete support from the leader of the opposition in this council, and I imagine every single other member that he represents on this particular issue. So I don't intend to start making a party political point about this. I don't think it's at all helpful, and I don't think it ever has been helpful to do that. And I have to say that, in my opinion, if fewer people had been concerned about party politics in this whole issue, we might have ended up with a better outcome than we have.
Thank you. Does anybody have any else would like to ask a question? Councillor Costenta.
Councillor Frank, please. Is there any update at all on the civil parking enforcement since we had the last meeting? Thank you.
Short answer, no. But we're still working on a solution. I was told at one point by county officers through our own officers that we were going to have to do all repairs and maintenance in perpetuity, and we said no way. I have spoken to the deputy leader of the highways and transport, and he said that's not correct information we've got. So I'm still working on it through other sources.
Councillor Sam Clark, please.
Yeah, I have a request for Councillor Murphy. At our last meeting, Councillor Connor asked Councillor Murphy to convey his thanks to the refuse and recycling operatives, as well as street cleansing operatives and rapid response crews for the excellent work they carry out on our behalf. I would like to add my thanks to the officers responsible for investigating and prosecuting the fly tippers who selfish actions are blight on our villages. 2 weeks ago, a large quantity of waste was deposited overnight in a quiet lane in Newton in the Isle. A member of the street pride visited that site to sort the waste for collection. Several items were rescued, photographed, advertised, and on Facebook, and people came and collected them so they didn't go back in the landfill. Documents were found amongst the rubbish showing a name and address in March. A street scene officer attended within an hour, collected the paperwork, visited the address, gathered information, and started a formal investigation. Within days, 2 individuals have been identified for enforcement action, which we hope will be successful. The incident highlights the professionalism of our street scene officers and the strength of the partnership we enjoy with our street pride groups. I'm sure my colleagues here will agree with me and ask Councillor Murphy to convey our thanks to all concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions they would like to ask? Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chair. Question for Councillor Laws. Just wondered if you can give us an update on the local plans. We don't have an update with the Cabinet members report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I hope you indulge me with this because I haven't been here for a while and planning is rather a passion, so I might give you a lengthy response. To start with, our new planning policy manager, Kirsty Paul, has started with us at the beginning of June and is currently reviewing the work done to date. mapping out options for a pathway forward, as there are proposed changes at a national level that may have an impact, i.e. changes to the NPPF, new national development management policies, and changes to the way plans are produced and examined. Once this exercise is completed, a more detailed project will be developed and shared with senior members, which will include a range of stakeholders' engagement to ensure our final local plan reflects members' wishes. Also, I'd like to point out that I'm sure you're all aware, government's policy priorities from July 2024, and I don't want to set the hairs running, but to build 1.5 million homes over the course of this Parliament, reforming affordable homes programme, introducing a revised national policy framework, and reintroducing mandatory housing targets, establish new mechanisms for cross-boundary strategic planning, requiring all combined and mayoral authorities to strategically plan for housing growth. And lastly, latest thinking on the design and implementation of a local plan following proposed reintroductions of mandatory housing targets. Discussions are on their way forward for freeing up grey belt land, which for those of you that are not aware, this could be forecourts of petrol stations, disused industrial sites, car parks that have fallen into disrepair, for building while protecting natural spaces, balancing new developments with the environment protection, and prioritising for community engagement and how to target areas of high demands. So there's an awful lot going on in planning at the moment, and therefore it's only prudent to actually pause and wait for government, which I understand is going to be very swift. So I don't think we'll have to wait long. So obviously then we'll kickstart the local plan again.
Thank you, Councillor Lord.
I guess supplementary to that, because I think it was around this time we were talking about going out for a second public consultation. So obviously that's going to be delayed. I'm assuming we're probably looking next year now for that process to start off up again.
Yes, we are, Councillor Booth. We have no option, but I think the important thing to know is that we've got a very, very good new planning policy manager, very much with a can-do attitude. And in fairness, we've had to wait, for instance, for our outside consultants' reports. One, of course, is the Gypsy and Traveller report that we've been waiting for. So there's a few things in the pot at the moment, but all members will be kept informed, and we'll resurrect the working party, which is important. And obviously this will have to move forward with the new guidelines from government. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is to Councillor Bowden. Following the news that the incinerator was coming, I made a video about it, and off the back of that, lots of residents contacted me with questions about it and asking things about it. One of the common refrains that I heard from people was that they felt it was a done deal from a very early stage. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know about the workings of government, but I do feel that the timing of the end of the moratorium, with almost the exact moment ministers stopped being ministers, was curious. And I certainly wonder what role the civil servants played in this and what they thought about it. Now, I've heard the leader of Wiswin saying that she was going to write to the new Secretary of State, and I know she has contacts with the Labour Party. And I've also heard her say she's spoken to the Combined Authority Mayor, who was also going to do that. So there is still a possibility that the new government could show us that there's no obstacle created by the civil service, and that it's entirely possible to reverse this. I absolutely hope they do. And my question is, would it be okay if every district councillor who wanted to could sign that letter from the council? Obviously, it's down to each individual to choose if they want to, but I'm sure all the Wisbech ones would, so that we can show a united front that isn't party politics based. Thank you.
Councillor Bowden.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tierney. In relation to the civil service, yes, there are some quite serious questions which have been asked, and I think which will be asked. And now is not the time, in order for us to be productive, to try to resolve this issue positively. Now is not the time to go into detail on that, but the time will come when that will be looked at. So far as the letter is concerned and having members sign it, I've got no problem with that whatsoever, so long as officers are able to manage that process and it doesn't delay getting the letters out. My fear is that if we were to do this, then maybe not all members would respond in time. I don't want this letter to be delayed by 1 day more, or these 2 letters to be delayed by 1 day more than they need to. So I will consult with officers about that, see what the practicality is of doing that, and I'll go on the basis of what it is that they say. But without one thing which I'm determined not to do is to have any unnecessary delay on this.
Thank you. Any more questions? Right, there are no more questions. We move on to item 8, which is a motion submitted by Councillor Taylor with regard to weeds. So it's a motion on notice from Councillor Taylor, which appears at page 61 of your agenda pack. Councillor Taylor, would you like to move your motion? You have 5 minutes to present the motion and say anything you wish about it. Your next opportunity to speak will then be when summing up. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Nawaz. You can reserve the right to speak at the end of the debate or at the time of seconding the motion. Do you wish to speak now? You'll speak now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. During the last few weeks, I've had the great privilege of going around knocking on doors of hundreds and hundreds of people and listening to their issues and concerns and grievances. There is a list of at least half a dozen major issues which I would request the council to visit from time to time. Weeds is one of the major issues. Not only do they have undue prevalence within Whittlesea, and I have been to virtually every street in St Andrews, in South Whittlesea, and in Coates. This has been a repeated complaint. But I also had the privilege of going out into the farms, outlying areas, the droves and the dirt tracks and the isolated houses. Sometimes I have actually witnessed people trying to deal with the weed problem, which at times seemed overwhelming. As a minimum, it constitutes a nuisance with the streets looking unsightly and scruffy, particularly with the flying bits of paper and other rubbish getting entangled into them. But on an extreme, I have also spoken to people who have said that this enormity of weed growing has ended up in their having to make emergency call to highways because the excessive weed was impeding outflow of surface water when it rained, and the water was damming up adjacent to their properties. So both in the more rural areas and the less rural areas, this is a prevalent issue. And I cannot honestly understand why it is that the timing which the County Council have suggested, I mean, I'm not a farmer, I'm a kind of a townie, if you like. But even I know that, you know, the best time would be when the seeds or the plants are growing, i.e. around April, May time. So, and not sort of October time when they're going into senescence anyway. So I would absolutely endorse what Councillor Taylor has said, and I hope that we can all support this motion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This item is open for discussion. Members are reminded that they are each able to speak once. Thank you. Would anybody like to start the debate? Councillor Miscandlin.
Thank you, Chairman. I support this motion for the simple reason being an ex-animal owner and the fact that there's a considerable increase in ragwort in the local highways, which is detrimental to all livestock. It causes failure within the internal organs of these animals and must be eradicated. And it is across every highway. You see the bright yellow flowers, which all look nice. They're killers. They kill horses, they kill all sorts of animals, and they must be eradicated. The only way you're going to do that is actually to have them killed with the weed killer. And I support Councillor Taylor's motion. This needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cow.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't actually indicated yet, but you could see the enthusiasm in my eyes, I guess. Because there is a very specific point I want to make here. Thank you, Tim, for bringing this motion in front of us. But it starts off right at the front saying County Council failed to deal appropriate with the weeds. And I take a little bit of exception with that, not because there's anything wrong in that statement, but it's just materially incorrect. Because what that County Council officers did was they carried out the instructions of the strategic political body that runs the council. The people that run the council on a strategic basis and on an individual basis, the Liberal Democrat, Labour and Independent Alliance made a formal decision at the budget process to stop weed killing. And their instruction to officers was to stop weed killing using those methods. They'd already run a trial in Cambridge, which we weren't given the results of, which actually found it to be a failure and a lot of people objected. And in the members' briefing on that, stopping weed killing, the members said to them, we can do that if you want, we'll chat to the parishes and towns, but the end result will be you'll get a lot of complaints from residents. And the joint administration, the Labour, the Liberal Democrats and the Independents, they said, well, thank you, we've listened to you, but we know better, so we're not going to do any weed killing. So we put in our amendment and we all stood up and we said these things about the damage going to be done to the roads, the pavements, the gutters, which will stop the floodwaters from going away, the spreading of seeds that we're hearing about in this motion. We said all this and they said, thank you very much for your opinion, but we're going to ignore you. Then the residents started writing in, the parishes started writing in. And the initial reaction to that, repeatedly, letter after letter is, thank you very much for your opinion, but we're going to ignore you. And it wasn't until the groundswell of opinion got to fever pitch, absolute fever pitch. A motion went into full council. We said, you've got to do something now. And they said, well, actually, there's something going on here. We've upset a lot of people. We'll do something about it at some point in time. They moved it off from last year into the full budget process, which put a delay into an immediate action. And by then, the overwhelming voice of the public was heard, bring it back in. So they did. They put a little bit in the budget for it. And that budget was passed in February of this year. February of this year. They could have started spraying in April. They said they was going to start spraying in April. They didn't start spraying until June. They'd missed the early season. They had some discussions with the parishes, etc. And now it's too little, too late. We all see in our communities weeds growing up to knee or waist height in some places. Those roots are well established. It will not be easy with a simple summer spraying and autumn spraying to get rid of them. They are here to stay. When they said, okay, they are too large and too difficult to move, we will actually hand remove them. When we looked later on, they said, yes, but it's only a very limited budget. We spent it and your area didn't quite make it. How does that happen? We were unaware that it was only going to be specific areas, specific budgets, and that money had already gone and been decided because it certainly wasn't my area. So yes, I sound angry because genuinely I am angry. And when I see something saying a council has failed to do something, I think in this particular point, I want to say the officers did a fantastic job of carrying out the instructions of their political masters. They did exactly what they were told, which actually failed the public, and they warned their political masters this would happen. So I'm glad you brought this, because in the nuances of this is the element that they are only now, they didn't bring the weed spraying back, they brought back a limited amount of weed spraying. So there are areas outside 40 miles per hour not covered. So those islands that you see, those roundabouts that are covered by the 60, they're not covered. And if you drive around, you will see them. And that is seed spreading across the entire Fenland area, plus all of Cambridgeshire. It's not good enough. I'm glad you brought this, and we'll keep saying it's not good enough until they actually start making a decent job of it. So thank you very much. I will be supporting this.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick, please, and then Councillor French, and then Councillor.
I'll keep this short and sweet and non-political. Having seen the state of Wisbech over the last year and having supported the motion last year, I will be supporting the motion this year.
Thank you. Councillor French.
Thank you. Yes, I do support this, but when you send the motion, I would suggest you send it to the Chairman of Highways and Transport. That is where the decision was made to overturn their previous decision. It was the committee actually said, we want this overturned, and they did. So I would suggest that motion does go there. And Steve is absolutely right. Very, very little money put into the budget, and some of the other parts of the county actually don't want the weed sprayed, which is a disgrace.
Thank you. Councillor Laws and then Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I fully support this motion. And I think it's absolutely ludicrous that I've heard from County Council that they were going to hand weed. Such false economy. I cannot believe it. But also the other fact is, again, everybody knows I'm a flood warden and very passionate about water. But most importantly, these weeds, as you say, are coming through our gullies, coming through our drainage system. We've had reports where, due to 17 inches of rain falling in October and record amounts up until March, surface water has been a huge problem. But these weeds have taken over. So again, false economy. We all complain about the road surfaces of our highways. And I can assure you those weeds, as Councillor Counter said, has taken grip. It's uprooting tarmac, and pavements are in a terrible state anyway, but the weeds now are lifting paving stones. So it's a trip hazard. All in all, I think it was the most ridiculous idea to stop weed spraying. And as for, and I probably will get told off for this, these do-gooders that want to see the weeds for the environment, they really must be town people. They really do not understand that the seeds float and the danger of this in the future. And as Councillor Scanlon has said, a danger to various animals as well. So all in all, fully support this motion and welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It's fair to say that this is a policy difference at county council level. And it's a fair argument to have, because what the people in charge of county council think, it seems to me anyway, is that there is nothing more important than their environmentalism. Mostly that revolves around net zero, but it spreads to wider environmentalism too. And they are absolutely obsessed by it, to the point where we can't even find agreement. And there's so many things we agree on. We all want clean water and clean air and nice environment, a diversity of nature. Everybody wants that. But they're so obsessed by it that it is bleeding into every policy. And this is just one of many policies where it's a problem. And I just wish that we had Liberal Democrats at county as sensible as the ones we have here, and independents at county as sensible as Councillor Patrick is tonight. Because although we have differences, here we find common ground and we work forwards. That is not the case at county council. And while it isn't, these problems are going to keep arising. And I tell you, there's lots more coming down the pipe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Gestent. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Count. I can assure you that in Wittersea, the weeds are 6 foot tall in places and like tree trunks. Okay? And I fully support the motion. I questioned County Council Highways about their agenda for the weed spraying, because Whittlesea had been left off the initial list. And they couldn't tell me when we would get that weed spraying done. All they said was, it could be, not would be, it could be in the next tranche. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, please. So, Councillor.
I fully support Councillor Taylor's motion. I'd just like to warn you all that no matter when you are told that your particular area is to be weeded, the week commencing the 24th of June, and we are still waiting. So whatever they tell you, you cannot rely on.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? Councillor Maffedon.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to add my voice to the support of Councillor Taylor's motion, and also to say that it is, in a way, it's false economy for the county council not to spray the weeds, because in some areas of my ward in Wisbech, we have weeds growing from the drains. and it's clogging the drains and it's causing flooding. And, you know, a lot of aggravation to people. The flooding leads, you know, you can't walk the street while it rains because you get splashed. And local, even the local ecosystem is affected in some areas. So I'm in full support of Councillor Taylor's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Chairman. I mean, this motion is clearly a party political one based upon the comments that everyone said today. I know we had the motion last year. I think one of the main issues that people seem to forget is when you use glyphosate, you've got to wait for dry periods. And you may have noticed it's been rather damp this year. But I have been informed, and I have actually seen that they have been applying the weed killer. So I know Councillor Davis said they haven't, but I've had reports that it's been done in March and other places. So I think the trouble is it's trying to get round while you can in the dry period. We only have to look at today. You wouldn't have been able to spray today. I also think once you spray, which obviously they have started, you've got to allow the glyphosate to take effect, and then it will obviously kill those weeds. That takes a number of weeks. I know I use or have used glyphosate in the past. And then you need to allow the weeds to grow before you spray again. So, which is only 10 weeks away, we're talking about this October spray. And obviously the shifting change of the seasons, it's getting warmer later into the year. So I don't disagree with what people are saying, but this is purely a party political motion that's been put before us today. One of the other things I would say is you can actually mechanically remove ragwort. I was doing that this very morning to try and protect our horses from our fields. So yeah, it can be done, and sometimes you have to do that to get the root out, because actually the glyphosate has real trouble killing the roots of ragwort. So, but anyway, that's all I'll say.
Thank you. Councillor Hoy.
So I never thought I'd say this, but I actually miss Councillor Alan Lay. And the reason is because, no, in all seriousness, that guy did not let you forget about Japanese knotweed. I'd never really heard of Japanese knotweed until Alan Lay was literally always going on about Japanese knotweed and how serious it is. And now he's not here, no one cares about Japanese knotweed. There's Japanese knotweed all over the place, and it's just being left to grow and damage things. So I just thought I'd add that, because it is just remember how awful we were told it was, and it should not be left. Everyone hates weeds. I haven't heard anyone saying anything different. I'm just repeating what everyone else has said. I get your point, Councillor Booth, about being party political. I suppose it is, and it can't not be, because people are in charge and they are of one persuasion. So it's very hard to avoid that. However, I would implore you to please, you obviously have your little meetings, like we have our Conservative meetings, you must have your Lib Dem meetings. Can you try and say to them, this is not on, change of policy? It'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Taylor, would you like to sum up, please?
Right, thank you, Chair. So I know I said that a lot of farmers use glyphosate in October, and we do. It's what we call volunteer. So that's seed what's gone over the back of the combine and out the back. So that's germinated and grown, and that's when we personally use glyphosate to kill it off before we start working land. That application in October also gives us a late chance to hit a particular problematic weed called blackgrass. And this weed is a major problem for farmers, but normal annual and perpetual weeds wouldn't be effectively growing in October unless we have a particularly dry, hot summer. Several years ago, a lot of the farmers used to look after the roadsides and cut the grass and bale it themselves. That was all taken off us. Although I'm sure Councillor Humphrey will bear with me in a minute, we used to call them beer can bales because there was everything in them, including beer cans off the roadside, but it was fairly good for cattle. Now, we've all heard of no mow May, but now we seem to be in no mow March, April, May, June, July, and potentially August. What is really worrying me that if CCC are now looking at 2 applications of chemical a year, are they looking at preventing and stopping the grass cutting as well? Is it going to look a bigger mess, brown and dead, or are they still going to continue to cut it and get it down to the ground and make it look something like normal? But Thank you very much for the people that's commented and supporting the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor Taylor. We'll now move to the vote. Can you keep your hands up while your vote's counted, please? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Any abstentions, please? Thank you. May I now call upon member services to announce the outcome of the vote?
So it's 38 in favour and 2 abstentions.
Thank you. That motion is agreed. Agenda item number 9, Treasury Management Annual Review for 2023-2024. Treasury Management Annual Review for 2023-24 can be found at pages 63 to 72 of the agenda pack. I'll now call upon Councillor Bowden as leader and portfolio holder with responsibility for finance to present the report. Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Chairman. Treasury management function. It's about, first of all, what we do about borrowing, and secondly, what we do with our investments and our liquid assets such as cash. In the year, as is explained in the report, in the year 23-24, there was no new borrowing at all. What expenditure we had for capital was done out of internal resources. But we are reaching the stage now where that is a limited pool to take more out of. And we will be looking at borrowing in the very near future to finance our capital resource, unless we change the way in which we finance some of the things that we have financed, particularly the properties that we've purchased through the Local Authority Housing Fund. And we're actively looking at ways of doing that so that we put back the day when we need to go out for external borrowing. And that's something which is being actively worked on this year. A good explanation is given within the paper about the capital financing requirement. I hope you've all read it. There will be a test at the end of my speech to see if you all understand how the capital financing requirement works in relation to the minimum revenue provision. But I thought it was really well written by officers, and I'm very grateful to officers for incorporating that within this report. We do have quite a bit of borrowing that we have inherited, and we've inherited it from a very long time ago indeed. And there are 2 large loans still outstanding, and it may seem very strange to you that we continue to have these large loans outstanding when we have had, on average, in the last year, some £19 million of cash available to invest. And the rationale behind that is that the cost of redeeming those loans would be prohibitive and would make no economic sense at all. So it makes more sense to leave those loans in place and to continue to pay out on those loans until they reach their natural conclusion, or until economic circumstances change to make that calculation different. And officers continue to watch out for the possibility of being able to redeem at least one of those 2 loans, but we will only do that when it makes financial sense for the council as a whole. The investment side of things, well, it's split between we've got long-term investments and we've got short-term ones. And our long-term investments are primarily, but not exclusively, in a property fund, about £4 million. We do have an individual property which we've also invested in. And that property fund, or pooled property fund, didn't perform particularly well last year, but it is a very long-term investment. And it is foolish to pool things on the basis of one bad year when you are investing and knew you were investing at the very beginning for the long term. But so far as the cash we had, which as I say was on average £19 million during the course of the year, It's good to see that we just exceeded the benchmark in the amount of interest we received for that money. And officers work literally on a daily basis in order to maximize that interest. And there's a lot of hard work which goes into that, which is almost completely invisible to members, other than seeing the end result, as we see here, with over £1 million worth of interest received during the course of the year, which of course assisted us tremendously when it came to balancing or coming close to balancing the books. So cash flow management is something which officers work extremely hard at. We do know to a great extent when it is that we're likely to be receiving money. But over the last few years, there's been a significant change in government policy, and it has become almost a random act, certainly unexpected act, when large sums of money will suddenly land on our doorstep. Sometimes we won't even know in advance that it's going to land, and sometimes we don't even know when it does land what it's for. And we are told by the new government that they're going to change the system that they have for financing local government. Now, there could be good parts to that, there could be bad parts to that, and we'll wait and see what's announced when it comes to the King's speech, and what sort of detail there'll be within the relevant bills, and what will happen when we come to the next budget. I think it would be premature to speculate on some of those proposals which have been made. All we can do is to ensure that we have as robust a council as possible financially, be able to deal with what I believe will be the turbulence of getting from where we have been recently to where we're going to be in the future once new government policies come in. And that turbulence may be very painful to us, and the new policies may be very painful to us, we just don't know. But the good thing is we're entering into this period in a far stronger position than the vast majority of other principal area councils around the country. So with all that uncertainty, you do need to have the security of a good amount of money in your back pocket, which is what we do have. So I'm going to stray slightly away from Treasury management. I'll leave it at that, Chairman, and move that the Treasury Management annual review be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowden. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Nawaz. Oh. Would you like to exercise your right to speak now, or do so at the conclusion of the debate?
I will leave it to the end.
Councillor Mrs. French.
Thank you. I would like to say a great thank you to the officers who have worked extremely hard on this. We do thank the leader as well, but we do know the bulk of the stuff is actually done with the officers. So I would say well done and thank you for doing so.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Nawaz.
Thank you, sir. There is not a huge amount to say other than that I have been through this report, and with the background of business of one sort or another, I find this that the management, fiscal management, has been competent, and I have every confidence in the handling of this business. So I would therefore support and commend this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowden, would you like to sum up, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm grateful for the comments which have been made about the work done by officers. It so often goes unrecognised and unnoticed, and ultimately, at the end of the day, what they do makes a difference to us in terms of the financial performance of this council. The one thing which I didn't mention previously is that the Public Works Loan Board continues to have an interest rate which is really far too high for long-term borrowing. And that's why we face a potential dilemma. If we can't manage to find a different way of refinancing some of the expenditure we've already incurred, then we may find ourselves faced with an unrealistic and unreasonable burden on the next 25 years of this council, repaying loans at interest rates which are far higher than we should want. I've got hopes shows what an optimist I am. I've got hopes that the central government will seek to have the PWLB reduced so as to encourage local councils to spend money on capital projects. But maybe I'm just an optimist on that. Otherwise, I'm more than happy for members to note this report and once again to congratulate the officers on all their work.
Thank you. The recommendation on page 63 of the agenda pack is for full council to note the report. Is that agreed? Thank you. Right, and final item is just to close, is to close the meeting. Thank you for your attendance this afternoon. May I remind you that the next ordinary meeting of full council will take place on Monday, the 30th of September, 2024 at 4 p.m.